All right, today we're going to be making whirligigs. So here's my example piece. All right, so first things first, you want to get all your ingredients. You need cardboard, tape, scissors, beads, wire, all the things you see here. So the first thing you got to do is you need to get a piece of paper, and you can measure it out, and you want to cut out a 4x4 square. And you're going to use that 4x4 square to trace onto a piece of cardboard, and you want to retrace it 5 times. Try to have it to where they're as close as physically possible so you have less cutting to do. All right, so, but I would suggest before you cut it out, go ahead and draw an X in the squares. You want to line up from corner to corner, and you only need technically 3 of them. I just did all of them in this example just because it was easier, but drawing an X lining up corner to corner makes it to where you can always find the center, and that's going to be helpful for something we're about to do. All right, so once you have them all marked out, you're just going to cut out all 5 of the squares. You want to try to make them as nice and as even as possible. If they're uneven or lumpy, they're going to be really hard to put together in a box. All right, so you want to take 3 of them. 2 of them you're going to leave plain. You're going to take a pencil, preferably a sharp pencil, and then very carefully you're just going to poke a hole in the center of each of those. 2 of them you're just going to leave as a simple hole, but on the 3rd one you're actually going to make it kind of like a coin slot looking thing, and I'm just going to poke 2 holes in it, and then you can cut it with scissors, or you can just like repeatedly poke it. So in this case I'm just using my pencil to poke it just to make it easier, and if the back bothers you, you can trim it up with a pair of scissors to make it look a little bit nicer and cleaner. This is going to be the top of our box where the whirligig is going to stick out of from the top. All right, so you want to arrange it just like this. The coin slot has to be facing up and down, and then you have the 2 ones that you poked holes in it next to it, and you're just going to take some tape and tape over it. Make sure the tape is like half and half. It should be able to flop up like that. Then you're going to take 2 of the blank ones, and you're going to make kind of like a big T with it, and above the coin slot or below it, you're just going to attach the 2 pieces directly next to it, and you want to make sure that it's lined up as best you can, and once again put tape on it. Make sure it's on the same side that you did before. You don't want to be flipping it back and forth. After you got all of that fully taped, you want to make sure that your coin slot is kind of like facing in the direction of the 2 you just taped. It can't be going sideways, otherwise it won't work. So here you can kind of see how like it just naturally folds up. So what you're going to do is you're going to use some more tape, and you're going to put it like half and half, and then you're just going to tape each of the corners as you fold them up. Something optional, if you want to have a stronger box, you can also use hot glue. It's just a little bit messier and a little bit more dangerous to use, of course. So masking tape works just fine, but if you are wanting to make a stronger one, that is always an option. But you're going to tape all corners with just like small pieces of masking tape. You can also use clear tape if you choose to, or painter's tape. So you're just going to do that to all of the edges. I also would suggest doing this to the inside of the box too. So here I've just completed all of the exterior ones. Oh, just one more. And then I'm also going to put some on the interior ones that I don't already have tape on. You can do that by just taking a piece of masking tape and folding it, and then sticking it on the inside, and just using your finger or a pencil to smooth out the edges. All right, so once you have your box fully formed, then the next part you're going to do is you're going to be drawing your gig, and I'll be demonstrating that here in just a second. I like to give my box a shake test just to make sure it's all sturdy. As long as your box is sturdy, then you're ready to move on. All right, so for this next part, you're going to take a piece of scrap paper, and then you're going to first draw or like trace around the bottom of your box, because you want your whirligig to be the exact same size as your box. So depending on how well you cut it out or how well you get all attached, it may look a little different. All right, so the first step for the whirligig is you want to find the center of that box. So here I'm just going to draw a little gig, which is just basically, it looks like a giant U shape coming down from the initial line. And then you want to make sure that you have it shaped exactly like this. So you should have 2 little lines going up from the original line. These are going to be your holders. The gig is going to face down, and then you're going to have a crank face up. Here I have a diagram that you can use as a reference. All right, once you have your gig drawn out and it's measured exactly to your box, then you're going to start bending your wire. Depending on how thick or thin your wire is, this might be harder or easier to do. You want to be working with at least an 18 gauge wire or higher, or wait, lower, sorry. So that way it's not too flexible. You want it flexible enough that you can bend it pretty easily, but you don't want it so flexible that when you go to try to turn it, it like unbends all your work. So here you can use, I'm using a combination of my fingernails, a pencil, you can use the back of your nail. You can also use the side of the table, but you just want to bend one section at a time. So here, every time that you see a change in direction, just take the time to bend it into that correct direction. Once you are done, you're just going to use a pair of pliers to just snip off the end of the wire. Don't use scissors, you could break them. All right, so here you can see this diagram. You're going to need 2 more long pieces of wire that are about the same size or longer than your gig, and one of those long wires you're going to cut in half. So with each of those wires, so take the longer wire. Your goal is that you need to make a little loop at the bottom of the long wire. So here you can see I'm using pliers and a pair of a pencil in order to try to do this, but you need to make a really tiny loop that's just big enough to be able to slide onto a wire at the base. So feel free to use whatever tools are necessary in order to make it really tiny. All right, once you have that, you're just going to set it to the side, and then you're going to take those pieces of wire that you would cut in half, and you're just going to bend it like this so that you have a small bracket, the long piece that's going to be the height, and then the other piece is just going to be what goes into the box. All right, so once you have all of that, then you are ready to start putting your gig together. Okay, so for me, I unbent that holder piece at the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that inside the hole, not the coin slot, one of the side holes, and you're just going to kind of wiggle it through. Don't go all the way through, because what you're going to do is you're going to install the gig part on the inside. So your first step is to get a bead, and you're going to slide that bead onto the gig from the inside, and then you want to make it stop whenever it gets to that little bracket right there, and then you're going to tape it in place just on the side of the bracket. You don't want to tape the entire bead, so you're just going to tape the side that is away from the center, and you want to tape it well enough that it's not going to move around, but you still want the plastic exposed in the middle so that the gig can slide. All right, so now you're going to take that long stick with the little loop that you did at the end, you're going to insert it into the coin slot, and then you might have to do a little wiggling, but you're going to slide that onto the gig so it gets in the middle, and then next to that, you're going to put one more bead. So your goal is to trap the long wire that has the loop in the center, and then the 2 beads are going to just allow that to be able to move around up and down so that the gig looks like it's going, and then you just tape the bead on the other side so that it can't move. So it'll look a little bit messy sometimes. Now if you want to go for clean, you can also hot glue that in place, but tape is just for easiness. All right, so then you're just going to reassemble your gig. So you want to have the holder on both sides. So here you can see that I had to bend that holder back into place in order to get it to fit. And then if you turn your crank, it should look like it's going up and down like this. If it's going up and down, that means you got it good. If it moves, maybe put more tape on the beads or put glue on it. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and design what I'm going to have flying. So I'm just going to do a bird. Notice that I measured the size of the box first. You want it to be roughly the size of the box. It can be a little bit longer or bigger. Just be careful not to make it too big and don't make it too small. So here I'm going to draw, you need to have 2 separate pieces. You need to have what's called the body form, whether it be a bird or a fantasy creature. And then you're going to have the wing form. They should be roughly the same size, give or take a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm actually getting 2 pieces of cardstock paper, and I am cutting this out at the same time so that I get 2 of the exact same shape on both of these. That saves you a lot of time. So here I have my bird, and the key thing is that you want to have the drawing on both sides of the opposites, right? So like here you can see the bird is drawn on one direction, and then I have to flip it and then draw the bird facing the opposite direction. That's because you're going to be gluing this bird onto the wire that's sticking up, and you'll need to have like the left side and the right side of the bird. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just drawing the design. So make sure you are using cardstock paper. Regular paper will be too thin. So I'm going to do the same exact technique with the wings. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the wings with 2 pieces of paper again. Make sure that the edge of the wing is totally flat because you're going to be taping that to the bird's body. So the inside piece of the wing needs to have some sort of flat line so that you can attach it. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and color the bird really quick. You can color using color pencils, markers, whatever. You can also like print an image if you're not really into drawing, but so you're just going to design out your thing. So here I'm just using color pencils. You can use whatever kind of materials that you want to. So as far as subject matter, it's entirely up to you. This for this particular gig that I'm showing you guys, it's a flapping gig. So it's going to look like something's moving up and down. And then on the sides, the wings are going to be static. So as the bird's going up and down, the wings will it'll seemingly stay still, but it's going to allow it to flap illusionally, right? So here I am actually doing color on both sides of the wings. You do not have to color the bottom of the wings if you don't want to. I personally wanted to because I wanted mine to flap and you could see like the underside of the wing. When you're done, it should look kind of like this. You should have opposites of both sides. So you should have the left side and the right side. All right, when you get ready to install the bird, make sure the gig is facing down. You don't want that center gig to be up. You want that to be down pretty low. Now, if your wire's too short, you can always add more length to the wire. So here my chickadee is going to be pretty low to the bottom of the box. Ideally, I probably would have made that longer if I could, but it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, so you're just going to tape it onto the wire. I would suggest at least 2 pieces of tape. And then after you get the chickadee taped to the wire, then you're going to glue the opposite side of the whatever it is you chose to make, and then attach it to the part that you just taped onto it. I personally bent my tail feathers out a little bit just to give it a little bit more dimension. You don't have to do that. Just the thing I wanted to do. You can test it to see if it goes up and down. If it looks like it's doing a jumping motion, then that means you got it good. All right, so now when you get ready to attach the wings, you're going to get a piece of tape, and I personally start with the bottom of the wing first, but you can do whichever, and then you're just going to put it in the spot that you want the wings to be at, and you're just going to rub that tape onto there pretty good. You can also get a piece of fabric and glue the fabric on there if you don't want to use tape, but tape usually works. You have to also tape the top of the wing as well so that it flaps up and down. If you only tape the bottom of the wing, it may not work or it might fall off. And whenever you put that second wing on there, make sure that you line it up so that it looks even from top view. So it should be able to flap, kind of like this. So it gets that kind of flapping motion. All right, so now comes the tricky part. You want to be able to install the 2 pieces of wire that you bent into that weird zigzag shape. I personally found it easier to just stab it into the box with the longer piece. And then after you stab it into the box, use tape and tape it in location on the inside of the box. I tried taping it at the top of the box and then it kept falling off. So taping it or hot gluing it to the inside worked better. And then here you can see you tape the other part that's sticking up to the inside of the wings. This part might need adjusting. So now that this actually completes the Whirligig, the rest of this is just trial and error. You may have to adjust the length of the wires going to the wing, or you might have to adjust the deepness of this gig. If you make that gig like further down, like a bigger U shape, then that will give it a more dramatic up and down motion. All right, so tweak it until you're happy with it, and then you have a Whirligig. Good job. If you need any help, just let me know. Have a good day.